The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time in May. We are in May now, my first Topic Time show of May, and I have a doozy of a show. I have a very interesting guest. He does a lot of things. He's an actor. He's a lawyer. He's on the board of Sharon Cable, I believe. He's going to tell us all about what he does, and he gave me a whole plethora of information, but it's not going to be the same until he tells it to the world on my show. But before we get to him, got to read these incredible underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. So we got a few tonight. We got Uplifted Nutrition in Taunton. We got Eli's Auto Care in Taunton. We got Fadeologist 101 Barbershop in Brockton. We got One Good Credit in Brockton. We got Genuine's Inspection in Middleborough. We got Kingston Auto Body in Kingston. We got New England Floorscapes in Middleborough. We got John's Greenhouses and Florist Shop in Brockton. We got Big Lee's Automotive in Hanover. Good to have them back after their move. We got Crazy Axe's Rec Center in Hanover. We got A1's Tire and Auto Center in Brockton. Always looking for new service writers and techs. If you don't know how to do it, send someone by that does. We got the Brazil store in Pembroke. We got Pembroke Radiator in Pembroke. We got Lynch's Towing Auto Cycle and Truck Center in Brockton. One number for towing, one number for projects. Always looking for new scrap metal, wheels, anything to do with that transportation. My pal Lynchy can handle over there. We got Johnny Macaroni's 3 restaurants, 2 in East Bridgewater and 1 in Halifax. We got Pal's Driving School in Middleborough, setting up classes for August and October. You don't want to be late. You just check the website. We got Dave's Automotive in Hanson. Good old Dave's Automotive on Route 58 in Hanson. We got Cornerstone Barbershop in Pembroke. We got 111 Tattoo Collective in Brockton. We got Aspire Health and Nutrition in Rainham. We got Autotown Auto Glass and Auto Body in Abington. We got Carver Jewelers, Ronald Darwin Liley, Delano Goldsmiths in Carver. We got Tom Auto in Middleborough. We got Rodney's Kitchen in Halifax. We got the Gunrunner LLC, the Second Amendment Freedom Store in Middleborough. We got DNS Auto Works in Abington, up on Route 58. Collision Specialist. We got Chapin Sheds in Whitman. We got Grant's Rental in Bridgewater. We got Doggy Boutique, all breed professional grooming for dogs and cats, run by my great next door neighbor Debbie Siddell in Brockton. We got RW Carpet and Flooring in Norton. We got Eastern Fitness in the Village Shops in Northeastern. We got Ocean Auto Repair in Marshfield, and we got Joe's Diner in Taunton. I want to thank you guys very much. And now I'm going to introduce Mr. Gary Bloom. He has a lot of things. He's a SAG actor, and about halfway through the show, we're going to look at a little demo reel of his. So Gary, thank you for doing my show today. I think you've obviously well prepped, and we're gonna have a great show. So how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Great. Okay. Well, why don't you? I mean, you do so many things. Why don't you go over what you do, and little by little. And what I'll do is when you talk about what you do, I'll intersperse my own comments, and we'll break it down further. So let's start with that. So go ahead. Tell me about yourself.
Fair enough.
Like almost not like it's almost like you're on a dating service, but you're not. But you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
So it all started the day I was born. I
Okay.
remember the day well. So I grew up a singer-songwriter. I went to college to be an electrical engineer. After that, I got another degree to be a computer scientist and worked as a software engineer for many years. At some point, I decided to become an attorney. Went to law school, became a lawyer. When I started looking for a job as a lawyer, I found that it was harder as an older and newer attorney to get a job without having any good real experience, so I decided to leverage my engineering experience in patent law. So I went back and got my patent license, became a patent attorney, worked as a patent attorney for a while, got bitten by the acting bug on a fluke. Since you talk about online dating, I was dating a woman that I had met through online dating.
Okay.
And she had seen a post in the Boston Globe that they were saying they were looking for actors, background actors for Don't Look Up.
Okay.
And I said, oh, wouldn't it be fun to do together? So we submitted, and long story short, I got on and she didn't. And I got bitten by the acting bug that day, and I said, geez, I'm going to be busy for the next 6 months. Some personal stuff came up, and I'm like, when this is all done, I want to check out this acting thing, see what it's all about.
Okay.
So after that 6 months, I ended up doing background acting on Julia, Season 1, Episode 7, and that ends up being my first on-screen appearance. In fact, I can reenact that for you.
Okay, go ahead.
if you see this ear right here, and I'm talking and I'm facing away from the camera, but this ear is very distinguishable.
Okay.
So that was my.
How is that ear distinguishable? Your other ear looks the same, unless maybe I'm missing something.
The point is that was my first. You got to see the back of my head, but that was my first
Oh, I
acting
see what
gig.
you're saying. Yeah, that's how you looked in the film. I got it. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
So then, you start as a background actor, and of course, the goal is to, get seen. So I ended up seeing my first show, which was fine.
Okay.
And then you work your way up to principal roles. So I've been doing that. So I've done a bunch of short films as a principal. Um, and right now, the most exciting role I've had so far, and I skipped something and I'll have to go back to it, but the most exciting thing I've had so far as an actor was I got to be on an ultra low budget project that shot here in the Boston area at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And I wrapped in December. The production wrapped in January. There's some really big names in the production. It's in post-production right now, which means it's being edited and they're preparing to, start to distribute it. But it's called Another Day in America.
Okay.
And you can see it now on IMDb. It hasn't released yet, but on IMDb there's a page for us, and you can see the different actors who are in there.
Is that
So
in
it's
your
my
demo reel that we're going to watch halfway through the show?
So the demo reel, so I have two demo reels. One's a 2-minute version, one's a 1-minute version. The 1-minute
Okay.
version is called a sizzle reel because it's shorter.
Yep.
There's no footage from Another Day in America because the film hasn't released yet. So the footage on my reel is basically from different shorts that I've been in. But when Another Day in America releases, some of that footage will be on my reel as well.
Okay.
The other project that I got into recently and I'm very excited about is I read for a lead role in a kind of a near futuristic film about cars
Okay.
and a battle between electric self-driving cars and these rebels who, like the old days, excuse me,
Oh, his phone. Okay. That's your phone, I assume, right?
not anymore.
Good.
My
Okay.
bad for forgetting to.
Has a pretty ringtone at least.
Yes.
Okay.
So in this near future sci-fi film, I would play the fellow who invents all the technology behind the self-driving cars.
Okay.
So it's exciting.
Yeah.
And so I've been invited to sit for my character. They haven't signed me yet, but I've been invited to sit as in my character at a table read, which is typically a pretty good sign. Usually they don't have you sit for a table read unless they're going to sign you. So I'm still kind of waiting for the papers to come through and get
Okay.
signed. But
Okay.
I'm excited to be in on this table read and get closer to getting signed for this role. So it's exciting. Good stuff.
It is. Tell me about now. You said you grew up as a singer-songwriter. I'm listening to everything you're telling me, and I want to backtrack a little bit to make sure
Sure.
we don't miss anything. So you were as a child, you were musical. Is that what you said? Is that what you meant?
I've always been, well, more of a singer than a musician.
Okay.
I've never learned to play any instrument. I
Okay.
mean, I started studying piano as an adult, but
Oh.
it's just never the same as when you start as a child. When you're a child, you just soak it in like a sponge.
Oh, I know. I did the same thing. I took piano lessons for 7 years.
Yeah, so I mean, so I can play a little bit of piano. I've studied the ukulele. I can play a little bit of that, but my great love is writing songs and singing. That
Okay.
is my greatest passion.
And you actually never got educated for that? You were self-taught, or did you get some kind of education for it, or which was it?
No formal education for it. I mean, I've taken, like I took a couple piano lessons when I finally decided to get serious. And I remember my teachers were like, you don't need lessons, you just need to practice. Because as an engineer, I had already analyzed the science behind music, and I understood the different chords and the structure and the way the keyboard was set up and why. They're like, you just need to practice. And that's what I've been bad about, practicing.
Oh, I know.
Right.
I sucked at practicing. That's why I finally had to give it up after 7 years of just wasting my time. But I'm glad I learned it because it was interesting. All right, where did you grow up? What town? Are you around the Boston area?
Yeah, so I grew up in Framingham, which when I was growing up was the largest
Town
town
in
in
the
the
United
United States.
States. I know.
Yes.
And
It
they
isn't
keep
anymore. Now it's a city.
Now it's a city. The Board of Selectmen finally decided to upgrade it to a city. That's interesting. I didn't know that, but I knew it was the largest town for years. So I know a few things too. Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Framingham, went to school in Amherst and Boston, you know, mostly in Massachusetts.
Oh, when you say Amherst, do you mean did you go to UMass College? Is that it?
UMass Amherst
I mean,
for my first
UMass
degree. Yeah.
Amherst, right? That's what I mean. Cool.
Yeah.
Did you major in partying or other things? Or
I was a good boy. I lived in Northeast. I was an engineer.
okay,
We studied, we worked hard. Um, but yeah, no, it was a great experience. And I actually, one of the really nice things for me is that I still stay in touch with my college friends. In fact, we have 2 Zoom calls a month
cool.
to stay in touch and talk and make sure that,
That everything's good. You just keep track of each other's
yeah.
goings on. Well, I had to tell you, looking at you now, you don't even look much past college age either. So I couldn't. I assume that wasn't
You're
that
too
long ago.
kind. How much do
Well,
I owe you for that, Harrison?
well, I think I mean, you can't be. You got to be younger than me. I got to figure at least 10 or 15 years, and I'm being generous at that. Not generous. I mean, I'm being the other thing, the opposite. But okay, tell me about how engineering fits into the whole deal with acting though, and then I want to know how that date went you were talking about.
Um, so engineering and acting. So one advantage to having been an engineer is I've got this, tech background. And, when it comes to sci-fi, a lot of the tech makes more sense to me. Um, I would say that just in general, having knowledge of tech is helpful. The other thing is, as an actor, because of COVID, so during COVID, most actors found themselves in a very different situation as far as auditioning for acting roles. In the old days, you would go into a studio, you'd wait in line, you'd finally get your 3 minutes, and then you'd leave. And after COVID, as a result of COVID, we all switched to what's called a self-tape environment, where basically you sit at home and in front of a camera and a microphone and another person hopefully reading the other person's lines. You record your scene at home and then mail in the tape. So actually, this is my self-tape setup here. I've got my lights, I've got
Oh,
my backdrop, I've got my cam and my microphone in front of me. So this is my area for doing self-tapes for submitting for acting gigs. So as a tech guy, like making that adjustment to being able to record my own self-tapes, edit my own self-tapes, submit my own self-tapes was really easy. I have friends in the acting world who they like to call themselves Luddites. One friend says if her boyfriend doesn't help her with stuff, she doesn't know what to do. She can, act, but when it's time to record, edit, and submit, her boyfriend helps her with all her stuff. So
okay.
one of the advantages for me being a techie is being able to do all that stuff on my own.
Okay, so that's because I was, to be honest with you, I never, except for in the old days when they ran the train stations, I still don't really know what engineers do. I mean, I'm not clear on that.
We design hardware, we
Okay,
design software.
you're talking about for computers, right?
Yep, so there are computer engineers, electrical engineers design hardware boards for computer systems, software engineers write software that runs on those boards, civil engineers and maybe industrial engineers develop bridges and stuff like that. Mechanical engineers design, mechanical devices like, um, well, I can't even think of anything, like a plow or a new fangled mousetrap or something.
Oh,
There's many different types of engineers,
yeah,
but
okay.
engineers kind of have a way of looking at things. Engineers tend to want to analyze and understand how things work, and that's kind of me to the T. I've always been like that ever since I was a kid. I was the sort of kid that, something was broken, I'd be like, oh, let me see if I can't take it apart and fix it.
Wow.
And 5 or 6 times out of 10, it would work, and
That's
other
something.
times I'd end up with a pile of parts that now had to be thrown away, but at least the thing didn't work before I started, so it wasn't so bad.
And plus you got some good hands-on experience, even if you failed. And sometimes you get better by doing that. You practice it. If you practice what you fail, you get better at it, and then you don't fail as much. I think.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's how my show's gone for the past 13 years, pretty much.
Some people say practice makes perfect, other people say practice makes better.
I think it's the second thing. So,
Yes.
all right, that's great. So tell me about you're on something to do with you tell me all the other things you do. You have so many things that you posted on you inboxed me earlier. So
Sure.
I want to cover as much as we can.
Sure. So I'm on the advisory board of a nonprofit agency called the Law, Your Money, and You.
Okay.
And the charter, the objective of the organization is to basically teach people, expand legal and financial literacy,
Okay.
teach people about the law, teach people about finance, mostly kids, and also some uneducated adults, but teach them the value of a dollar, how to not get swindled. You know, if you have to go into court, what happens? You know, we're trying to get people to feel more comfortable with law enforcement, and finances so that they're like, you know, when the kid leaves college for the first time and has to now live on his own, he knows how to manage his money. You know,
Okay.
it's basically just teaching people how to, it's like teaching life skills, basically, encouraging people to learn these important life skills at a younger age so that they're prepared for life more early.
Okay,
When
that's
they're
great. And on that note, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but I just was informed by my tech man that we're halfway through the show. So we're going to watch Gary's little demo reel, and then we're going to come right back and discuss that and all those other things. So keep watching, and we'll be right back.
What's going on here?
This is a stick-up.
Tell me you're joking.
No joke. Drop the money.
Never.
Hello, Riley. My name is Gideon Ward. I'm here today because your mother's and your boyfriend are worried about your substance abuse problem. I am here to mediate.
Intervention. I got it.
I was going to say conversation.
You want to dance, you little flower sniffing bitch? Come on, let's dance. Come on. Come on.
Promise me.
Yes, sir.
We don't have time. All we have is now.
But, so, what do we do now?
Throw it all away. I don't need to take anything from this place to know what I've lost.
Oh, Gary, that was great. Talk about the reel, and then we'll pick up where we left off about the law advisory board and other things. So go ahead, if you would.
Sure.
Okay.
So the reel you just saw is what I call my sizzle demo reel. When you're an
Okay.
actor, you have a few calling cards, you need a resume, you need a headshot, and you need a demo reel, or nowadays we could call it a video reel, because there's also voice acting, they have a voice reel. So typically you would have a 1 to 3 minute reel demonstrating some of your previous work so that casting directors can see you in action. So your resume says what you've done, and your video reel, your demo reel, shows what you've done.
Okay, that's great. Well, it was wonderful. All right, so and how long did it take you to make that? How many bits on that did you have? I wasn't really clear.
So the sizzle reel, I believe, is 4 chunks from 3 different productions. So 3 productions, 2 chunks from the same production, and then a chunk from each of the other productions. Some of them were short films from the Boston 48-hour film project.
Okay.
So the comedy, I shouldn't say Boston. So the first clip is from the Portland, Maine 48-hour film project. I got to do my first comedy. Loved it.
Okay.
Loved it. And then some of the other footage was from an Emerson College short film I did last year, and that's the more dramatic stuff. And then there's a small clip about me fighting with a female warrior, and that came from the Boston 48-hour film project of last year.
Okay.
And actually,
wow.
this coming weekend is the weekend for the Boston 48-hour film project of 2023. So I'm actually going to be back in action this Saturday, acting in 2 different productions, hopefully.
Well, that's great. And you know what? If you're having fun on my show, what would be great is if you know any new other actors out there or actresses, pretty actresses or whatever, that want to be interviewed, send them my way. I figured I'd throw that in for effect so I don't forget by the time we wrap it up tonight. All right,
Sure.
so that's what you're currently doing, right? You're doing acting, and you're on that board. And where exactly is the board meet? So, is something? Do you meet like weekly, quarterly?
So-
How does that work?
So the board is based primarily out of Sharon, Mass.
Okay,
And the shows that we record, although they used to be in studio, a lot of them now are Zoom because of COVID.
right.
Those can be seen on the Sharon Community Television channel on YouTube.
Right next door.
And the Law
Yep.
Your Money and You has its own website, so you can find shows there. I've been on the show a few times myself talking about patent law and intellectual property and consumer protection and actually labor law. And we've been meeting most recently via Zoom, as I mentioned, because of COVID. But actually, there is actually another aspect of my career which I didn't touch upon.
Okay, go
which
ahead.
is, as a lawyer, after I started doing patent law, I actually somewhat transitioned into entertainment law. I
Okay.
started working with musicians because of my great love for music and singing, songwriting.
Does that also include actors too that you represent, or just musicians?
Well, this is the progression.
Oh, I
So
see. Go ahead.
since I started acting, ironically, I gave a seminar on how to break into acting, how to get started as an actor and make money in New
Okay.
England. So I got started in film and TV because a fellow came to my seminar, liked it so much and said, you know what? I've written a script and I want you to be my lead actor in it.
Wow.
I'm like, sure. So we started talking, and it turned out that he had written this amazing script, but he didn't have any concept for how to actually make a film. So it got me thinking. It's like, okay, well, I can help you shop your script around. So let's do that. So I'm like, okay, now I've got my first film and TV client. So it got me thinking. I'm like, oh, I could actually work more in the film and TV world. So now I've actually got 2 screenwriting clients. And the first fellow, we are trying to shop his script around, get somebody to either option it or buy it outright, or maybe license it and make it into a major production. And then the other fellow is in a different category. He knows a lot of investors, he knows a lot of actors. So I actually work with him to try and produce his projects. So we're looking at investors and looking to sign investors to invest in the projects and looking at actors and talking to them. So it's really interesting. With one guy, I'm just like hands-off selling, trying to get money, just trying to monetize his script. With this other fellow, we're actually trying to make a movie. We're trying to make movies.
Okay.
So I've got both extremes. And in the meantime, because I want to learn as much as I can, I'm scrambling to learn all about production. I'm taking a screenwriting class right now with Aaron Sorkin. I've watched, acting classes by Samuel Jackson, Natalie Portman, Helen Mirren, and now I'm watching this Aaron Sorkin screenwriting class. And as soon as I finish that, I'm going to jump into the filmmaking classes by James Cameron, the guy who did Avatar. And, there's all these, and independent screenwriters, independent filmmakers. So I'm just trying to deluge myself with all the knowledge that it takes to make it in the entertainment, in film and TV, because there's just so much I need to learn. And I'm trying to do it quick, because that's kind of usually how I do everything, quickly. Because there's no time, right? No one wants to wait 3 months for you to get up to speed. They want you to get up to speed yesterday. So
Oh, I know. I see you're a stickler for details. That's amazing. That's good. That keeps, if you weren't, you wouldn't be as successful as you are, I would venture to think.
I'm a stickler for details, except for remembering to turn off my browser that's got the phone that rang before.
Well, I know
That'd been pretty good.
that's true. The little stuff you overlook, but that's sometimes if you're focused on something important, sometimes the little stuff falls by the wayside, and I've had that happen many times too. We're all human, We all have, It's, in a way, it's kind of cool. Think about it. I mean, if we weren't, everything we'd all be automated, and we wouldn't have the fun and frailties of life that we do. And it's probably better this way.
True.
Okay. Well, so currently, you got this project coming up. What did you say was coming up this weekend? It's the Boston Film Festival.
The Boston 48-hour film project.
Okay, the
We'll have a
project.
kickoff. There'll be a kickoff tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Teams will be told the 3 things that they need to put into their film project. There'll be like a line of dialogue, a prop, and a character name. This is to make sure that you don't try to use work that you've done before and submit it. Because what happens is the kickoff is Friday at 7 p.m.
Right.
And the film is due Sunday at 7:30 p.m. So you literally have 48 hours and a little bit to write a screenplay, film it, edit it, submit it. It's crazy. It's a crazy time, which is why it's so exciting.
Let me ask you something. 5 years ago, on May 11th of 2018, I attended what they call, I think, a Breakstone Film Festival at Emerson College. And it featured a couple of my topic time guests from 2018 that had been on a couple of weeks earlier. And what it was and it featured a lot of them. It featured more people that I had interviewed that I didn't even realize would be in the film festival. And I assume that this is something kind of similar to that, right? Where they had a certain amount of, it was like a final project for their school, for Emerson. Is this kind of like
So-
that in
So-
some ways, or what? And if
So
not,
for Emerson, so they've got their school projects, they've got their master's thesis, things they
Right.
need to do, like as part of their curriculum to graduate. The Boston 48 is part of a national and
oh,
an
okay,
international 48. So we've got the Boston 48 once a year. Portland, Maine
yeah,
has a 48 once a year. Providence has a 48 once a year. They're all scattered throughout the year.
okay,
But then at the end of the year, they compare so each state has its winner,
yeah,
right? Their top films. Then that goes into a national competition. They get the winner from that. Then it goes international, and they compare all across the world. So the 48 is international. It's an
okay, yeah,
international
that's great.
project. So it's really cool.
It is. So it's almost like the Emerson thing, except on a much larger scale.
Yes.
Okay.
And with the 3 requirements to make sure that you are not using.
Oh,
that
no,
these-
you're doing your own stuff only, nothing, no one else's. That makes sense. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, guess what? We're down to the final 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
We made it go by, and I hope you had fun with me. I hope we covered it.
I
And
did.
great. All right. So, like I told you at the beginning, what I'd like you to do is give shouts out to people that are going to see the show, condense them, family members, friends, and then we'll wrap it up with my music the way we started it. So, go ahead.
Well, I want to give a big shout out to my aunt Bobby and Uncle Jerry from Sharon,
Cool.
and my aunt Phyllis from Quincy, and my cousin Jonathan, who's by state in Florida and Massachusetts,
Okay.
and my cousin Laura and Jason, and amongst my acting friends, my beloved friend Kameen, and I didn't really prepare a list of
Well,
people.
don't worry about that. I mean, that's what I said. Just condense them because it's like I said, we're down to the final 5 minutes. You don't want to spend too much time giving shouts out because then we'll run over. All right. Well, so what I want you to now, aside from that event, that 48-hour film project tomorrow, is there anything coming up that you might have overlooked? Knowing you might, even though you're very a stickler for details, there might be something on the horizon that you should have mentioned that you forgot about. If there is, mention it now. That way, we'll make sure we covered it all,
Sure.
and then we'll wrap it up.
So I already mentioned Another Day in America. So tonight I'm going to have an in-person chemistry reading with another actress for this production, Wheeler, which is the one I was telling you about, the self-driving cars versus the old manual cars.
Okay.
And there should be a formal table read coming up sometime in the next month or so. And hopefully I'll get to sit for that, and that'll get me one step closer to getting signed as in the biggest role of my acting career, as a number 5 lead in a big budget Hollywood feature film. Super exciting.
Great, that's awesome. Now, one thing I'm going to ask is if you had fun with me and like people in acting, anybody with an interesting story to tell, you think might be a good guest for my show, please pass my digits along to them. We'll get them on, and if they want to text me, we'll get them on either by Zoom or in person, and that would be great. So you did a wonderful job with me, and I have one last favor to ask. Once we wrap the show up, would you mind sticking around and let my tech guy will take a couple of pics for Facebook, and then I'll tag you in them. If you want to tag me, that would be great too.
Sure thing.
All right, Gary, thank you so much. Good luck with everything. And the show, hopefully the show will be up next week, and it'll be a filibuster of greatness. Yeah, I can't think of any other way of expressing myself when it comes to topic time. And that's it. And you made my interview easy. You had a lot to say, and I hope I did it well for you. So on that note, we're going to wrap.
A lot. That helps the time go by too.
It does. It absolutely does. It makes it easy. It definitely makes it easier for me. So on that note, we're going to wrap up the first show with Meg. Thank you, Gary Bloom. Great job. And see you next time. Have a good one. Signing off. Bye-bye. Snapping away.